Our plan will safeguard a reliable Canadian public square in a sea of misinformation and disinformation, so we can stay informed and tell our own stories in our own languages. Our plan will not only strengthen CBC Radio Canada, it will strengthen our communities that rely on it. It will make Canada strong. Nous allons nous donner un diffuseur public plus fort, des communautés plus fortes. Nous allons nous donner un Canada fort. Merci, thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Judy Trin, CTV News. Good morning, Mr. Carney. You were at the helm of a company that quite clearly registered much of its business in Bermuda to avoid paying taxes, including, as CTV News reported, registered to an address of a bike shop in Bermuda. You have said that this is the way the world works, and that in the case of pension funds, that leaves more money for pensioners. But in this case, it looks like just plain tax avoidance. This may be a legal practice, and as you say, as the world works, but is it ethical, Mr. Carney?
First off, I'm no longer at Brookfield. Secondly, this follows, their arrangements follow the rules, including the tax rules of this country, other countries. And thirdly, as you mentioned in your question, that the structure is organized so that Canadian pension funds can get the most benefit for those pensioners, which are teachers, retired first responders, and public servants. Thank you.
You did not really respond to the question as to your opinion as to where, if it was ethical, but let me follow up on that. You wrote a book, Values. The thesis of that book was that capitalism or markets left to their own devices don't help humanity. For years, your party, the Liberal Party, has promised to stop the practice of tax avoidance that Brookfield and other companies have engaged in. Do you have the tools to do that? You said so. When are you going to release and tell Canadians what those tools are, and when will you implement them?
In terms of having a fair tax system in Canada, including for corporate taxation, it's absolutely a priority of my government. If we are re-elected, it would be a priority of our government to ensure that our companies are paying their fair share of taxes, and that, above all, that those taxes that are at the resources that are at the disposal of the government, that they're being put in place for the purposes that Canadians want. And today is about making sure that those scarce resources are used to reinforce our culture in an independent CBC Radio Canada that provides vital information in all of our communities, and that helps to build this vibrant culture. And we couldn't be in a better setting, I think, than in Montreal to point to that culture that lives and breathes and is so crucial to our national identity. Thank you.
Next question.
Good morning. Bill Crane from the Globe and Mail. Following President Trump's tariff announcement this week, Alberta Premier Daniel Smith described it as a big win for Alberta and Canada. What are your thoughts on that assessment?
Well, I think, thank you for the question, Bill. As I said yesterday, that I think with respect to the reciprocal tariffs, which is what the Americans are calling the series of tariffs announcements this week, Canada got the best of a series of bad deals. That's true. But we did get a better deal than any other country. But we also have the reality that in place are tariffs that came from the unjustified tariffs that came from the fentanyl issue, an issue that we have put enormous efforts into addressing on both sides of the border, tariffs that are in place on aluminum and steel, and then tariffs that entered into force as of yesterday in our automobile sector. And so all of those in contravention of our trade agreements with the United States. So I don't think this is time for celebration. It's a time to fight those tariffs. It's a time to protect our workers and the companies affected. And it's time to build, including our cultural institutions.
Former Reform Party leader Preston Manning recently wrote that if Canadians vote for you, it's a vote for Western secession. You opted not to run in an Edmonton riding, even though you grew up there. You have not yet campaigned west of Winnipeg. So what are your thoughts on Mr. Manning's comments, and what is your plan to address Western alienation concerns?
Well, a couple of things. I, as you know, born in Northwest Territories, grew up in Alberta. I resolved to no one in terms of my understanding of the West, my connection to the West, and I'm part of a government that governs for all of the country and very much for the West. I think such dramatic comments are unhelpful at a time when Canadians are coming together, and that is the sense in the West as well. I would note the Leader of the Opposition encouraged greater unity. This is a time when we need to come together as a country. We are coming together as a country. What we're offering as the Liberal government is a positive plan, a plan of action that Canadians can rally behind, including in the West, and I look forward to seeing you out West, Bill, on Sunday. En français, en ce qui concerne les commentaires, well, d'être positif, c'est un moment de réunir, de s'unir comme Canadiens et Canadiens. Je viens de l'Ouest du Canada, j'ai grandi en Alberta, je connais bien l'Ouest, et notre gouvernement, c'est un gouvernement pour tout le Canada. Et nous avons un plan positif, un plan d'action, et c'est le moment pour les Canadiens et les Canadiennes d'être unis. Et on peut le faire avec un gouvernement libéral. C'est à vous. Oui.
Bonjour, M. Carney,
Bonjour.
de Radio-Canada. Est-ce que vous croyez, je vais parler un peu plus fort, oui, est-ce que vous croyez que le Québec est une nation ou une société distincte, et quelle est la différence à vos yeux?
Oui, le peuple québécois sont une nation au sein du Canada et au sein de l'identité canadienne.
Et quelle est la différence entre les deux? C'était la deuxième partie.
C'est l'idée le peuple québécois d'être une nation, comme le Parlement a proclamé il y a une quinzaine d'années, je crois. C'est pendant le gouvernement de M. Harper. Mais ça, c'est le corps d'identité québécois. La différence, c'est plus fort d'être une nation qu'une société. Ouais. On this issue, the question is, well, what I just said was that the Quebec people constitute a nation within Canada, and I observe that this is also the judgment of Parliament and the proclamation 15 years ago. You can Google the exact date, but everything is farther back in the past than I remember, but it's something like that now. Follow-up, s'il vous plaît.
Le gouvernement québécois songe à élargir la loi sur la laïcité pour inclure le personnel et les bénévoles. Est-ce qu'à votre avis, c'est justifié ou discriminatoire?
J'en ai pas une avis sur cela. Et la question pour moi, c'est plus la question qui pose sur la loi est plus de l'utilisation de la clause non-obstant dans une manière préemptoire. Mais je ne suis pas juriste. Alors, c'est une question pour l'école. OK?
Next question.
Morning, Mr. Carney.
Morning.
Canyon, CBC. The minister you moved off the heritage portfolio when you became Prime Minister had been suggesting to remove ads from the CBC completely in order to
yes.
private broadcasters get to that revenue. How can you justify giving CBC $150 million more while letting it continue to have ads?
Well, first off, let me take this opportunity to thank Pascale Saint-Onge for her service to her riding to Quebec, to Canada, in many ways, but including as a deputy and as a minister, and also thank her for her leadership on these issues, including with her her white paper, green paper on the CBC, which informed many of the decisions that we are taking and announcing today. So this is a very deliberate process, and it's benefited from her work and work with Stephen, actually with all our colleagues in reflecting. To govern is to choose, and part of choosing is on funding models and ensuring that we have adequate funding for this enlarged mandate and this crucial mandate for CBC Radio-Can. In the judgment in the end that having the balance of some statutory funding and advertising, including during the news, is that's appropriate balance in terms of taxpayer dollars and competition. So it's an informed judgment that in many respects is financial. Thank you. En français, j'ai commencé par remercier Madame Saint-Onge et tout le travail qu'elle a fait pour le Canada, et y compris pour Radio-Can CBC avec un papier vert qui informe les décisions aujourd'hui, les initiatives aujourd'hui. En ce qui concerne les publicités, c'est plus une question de financement de l'institution. Et il faut décider, comme un gouvernement, on a une augmentation de financement public, mais on garde encore les publicités. OK, merci.
Last night you did call Quebec a distinct society on Radio-Canada. You've mangled up Polytechnique and Concordia. You had that bad initial French name for the housing agency, which the Liberals changed within hours. Are you getting lousy advice about Quebec, or do you just not listen to your Quebec advice?
Mon lieutenant du Québec, il est ici. Mes députés sont ici. I don't know, Stephen, am I getting lousy? Look, the question was asked a moment ago, and let's go to this issue of the Quebec is both a distinct society, and the Quebec people are distinct, a distinct nation within Canada. One does not negate the other. So I take issue with the premise of your question. Merci.
Yeah. Last question from the delegation. Dernière question de la délégation.
Bonjour, Monsieur Carney, Hélène Moka de la presse canadienne. Puisque nous sommes au Québec, j'aimerais souligner que cette semaine, une motion a été adoptée à l'unanimité à l'Assemblée nationale pour s'opposer à votre volonté d'instaurer une économie canadienne au lieu de 13. Cette motion réitère la volonté du Québec de veiller à ses propres intérêts économiques, culturels, linguistiques. Est-ce que votre vision économique, votre vision globale du Canada peut nuire aux intérêts du Québec?
Non. Merci pour votre question. Une réponse courte, c'est non. Je respecte toujours, je reconnais toujours l'importance de la langue française, la culture québécoise, et dans une société canadienne et une économie canadienne. Mais je veux souligner que M. le Premier ministre Legault, il est d'accord avec cette vision d'avoir une économie qui respecte l'identité québécoise, bien sûr. Mais nous avons eu une communiqué unanime des premiers ministres à Ottawa par le dernier, qui décrète cette vision. Ce n'est pas seulement la mienne, c'est la vision de tous les premiers ministres du Canada.
Et en lien avec votre annonce du jour, pour renforcer l'identité canadienne, je comprends que vous voulez protéger et renforcer la CBC Radio-Canada. Est-ce que d'octroyer plus d'argent à Radio-Canada est le seul moyen pour vous pour protéger la culture et le français, entre autres?
OK. Ça, c'est une question fondamentale. Et c'est une des raisons pour lesquelles nous avons une ministre, une grande ministre de culture, identité canadienne, et une grande ministre comme personnage, pas nécessairement par taille, mais une grande ministre comme M. Guilbeault, qui est responsable pour renforcer l'identité et la culture canadienne, et bien sûr, y compris la culture québécoise. Alors, il y aura d'autres initiatives de notre gouvernement, mais aujourd'hui, c'est une grande annonce, c'est une grande initiative pour Radio-Canada, CBC. Et nous voulons concentrer sur ça.
Maintenant.
C'est une campagne électorale, il y a d'autres jours.
Maintenant, aux médias locaux.
OK.
Oui, bonjour, Andy
Bonjour.
Saint-André de TVA LCN. Bonjour, M. Carney. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
M. Carney, pourquoi montrer la porte à un candidat ayant tenu des propos pro-Hamas et pro-Hezbollah, mais refuser de le faire dans le cas de Paul Chang, qui s'est désisté? Pourquoi est-ce différent?
M. Chang a démissionné, sa décision était correcte. C'est fini pour lui. Yeah. Well, he asked me one and the other, and I said that with respect to Mr. Chang, he's resigned. That was the correct decision, and Mr. Loyola is no longer a candidate.
Denis Ledroit, bonjour, je vais renchérir.
C'est une question locale.
Oui.
Pas exact. C'est pas exact.
Le processus de sélection des candidats finalement est assez robuste au Parti libéral.
En général, oui. Mais s'il y a un problème, il faut le régler et nous l'avons fait.
Au port de Montréal, l'année dernière, le gouvernement Trudeau a demandé 4 fois au Conseil canadien des relations industrielles d'ordonner un retour au travail, notamment pour régler le conflit qui avait lieu ici au port de Montréal. Les syndicats jugent qu'on les prive de leur droit de négociation. Est-ce qu'un gouvernement Carney interviendrait dans les conflits de travail?
Évidemment, notre préférence est non. Nous avons beaucoup de respect pour les syndicats et le processus de négociation. Mais alors, il faut trouver une manière d'avoir des corridors de commerce, et, y compris les relations industrielles avec les travailleurs qui fonctionnent bien pour les travailleurs.
On a une dernière question. Last question, please. Thank you.
Hi, Amelia Fournier from La Converse. Montreal is a cultural capital. It's also a renter's capital in Canada. It's getting harder for artists to survive out here. New builds actually have higher vacancy rates than older buildings because their starting rents are much higher. And my rent can go up to a minimum of $100 a month this year with the new housing tribunal regulations.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, beyond building more housing, what the Liberals' plan is to protect tenants in Canada and make living here actually affordable.
Well, I want to underscore, I know that's part of what you don't want me to talk to, but we are not going to solve these issues in Montreal, across Quebec, across the country, the very real challenges that you're raising, unless we build a ton of more housing, to use a technical term, but literally to double the amount of housing. And part of what we're doing is going exactly to the challenge that you're facing, because in effect, government, including the federal government, got out of the business of building affordable homes. We got out of the business, and we have to get back in the business in several ways. Part of it is as a catalyzer of building affordable homes, but also providing clarity about the scale of building that's going to happen and the type of building that can happen, so we can build those homes much cheaper. So just to be specific, we're looking to double the amount of homes. We are putting in tens of billions of dollars to finance the building of that. We are changing the regulations and the specificities of those homes to catalyze prefabricated modular mass timber homes, better for the environment, but 20 to 25% cheaper in terms of delivery of home. And all of that will help shift the balance, not overnight, I understand, not overnight, but in a way that's going to make a true difference.
Who's going to be setting the rent price for those units?
Well, many of those regulations are at the municipal level, and we respect levels of competencies of governments. Surtout au Québec, il faut respecter les compétences des gouvernements. Merci.
Merci, Monsieur le Premier.
Okay.
C'est ce qui m'a fait à notre conférence de presse. This puts an end to our press conference.
Thank you.
Yeah, what is this terrible advice?